Good YouTube, it's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV back at y'all with another one. So, rising super featherweight superstar title contender Christopher Little B Hop Prime Time Colbert undefeated 16 wins, no loss and no draw, 6 wins by way of knockout, 25 years of age, 5'8" with a 71-inch arm reach. Chris Colbert, he will be having a title eliminator showdown with Hector Luis Garcia, who is undefeated and is a replacement opponent. It's 14 wins, no loss and no draw, 10 wins by way of knockout, 30 years of age, southpaw, 5'9" with a 67-inch arm reach. With that said, Christopher Colbert was supposed to have a title fight this upcoming Saturday in Las Vegas, Nevada, but his opponent tested positive reportedly for the C-19 and had to be removed from the fight. So he had to have a replacement opponent, and this is his replacement opponent. Now, there's been talks of Chris Colbert and undefeated two-division world champion, who's the reigning WBO super featherweight world champion, superstar boxer, that being Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson is 17 wins, no loss and no draw, 9 wins by way of knockout, 24 years of age, 5'8" with a 68-inch arm reach. He'll be going into a massive unification showdown with Mexican superstar boxer, undefeated two-division world champion, who currently is the reigning WBC super featherweight world champion, Oscar Valdez. Oscar Valdez is 30 wins, no losses, no draws, 23 big wins by way of knockout. Oscar Valdez is 30 years of age, at 31 years of age, 5'6" with a 66-inch arm reach. Okay, they're scheduled to face off April 30th in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Massive unification showdown. With that said, Chris Colbert, he was supposed to pick up the WBA title that was vacated by former 3-division world champion superstar boxer Gervonta Tank Davis, who simultaneously held the WBA at 130, 135, and 140. But he had to do away with one of the titles in a division, and he did so with the 130 pound and the 140 pound. So he kept and he stayed as the 135 pound WBA champion. So Christopher Colbert initially was supposed to face off for the vacant WBA title at 130 at super featherweight, but his opponent had to pull out. And so now he has a replacement opponent, and he wanted to keep the date. So with that said, he talked about a unification bout with Shakur Stevenson. Chris Colbert is from Brooklyn, New York. Shakur Stevenson is from Newark, New Jersey. So there's a natural rivalry there. But obviously, Shakur Stevenson, he wants to fight Chris Colbert in a unification bout. So now that Chris Colbert is fighting for a eliminator position, in the foreseeable future, Shakur Stevenson is probably going to go in the direction of looking to gain a title, probably the IBF title. Okay, so with that said, Chris Colbert, he's in need of an opponent. Okay, his next fight. Okay, and not to slight his upcoming opponent, but he's highly favored to win this fight. Chris Colbert is looking at a possible showdown with former WBC featherweight world champion superstar boxer Mr. Gary Russell Jr. Okay, Gary Russell Jr., he lost his last fight, but Gary Russell, he suffered a arm injury, a shoulder injury, where his right shoulder, he could not use his right shoulder. Gary Russell is 31 wins, 2 losses now with no draws, 18 wins by way of knockout, 33 years of age, 5'4.5" with a 64-inch arm reach. Okay, he lost to Mark Maceo. That was back in January of this year, and a majority decision went to Mark Maceo, but like I said, in the 4th round, Gary Russell hurt his shoulder, and I thought he still won the fight with one arm. Okay, so with that said, Chris Colbert, he stated that that's going to be his next fight. He hopes that's his next fight is Gary Russell Jr., and then he's looking to pick up that title, that WBA title, and then he's looking to fight Shakur Stevenson, which is interesting because he said that he wanted to test himself against the absolute best there is to offer. And he stated that Gary Russell Jr. is that test. Okay, so, he wants to fight with Mr. Gary Russell Jr. and, then en route to fight Shakur Stevenson. But obviously, if his upcoming opponent, that had to pull out from the fight, Roger Gutierrez was initially the opponent. Roger Gutierrez, he still holds the WBA title. So if he's able to come back, Robert Gutierrez, and Chris Colbert is able to pick up that title for him, then obviously the Gary Russell fight will be on hold. But this is an interesting fight, for Christopher Colbert. It's an interesting fight for Gary Russell Jr., who will be moving up in weight. He campaigns right now, at 126 pounds. So this fight would be obviously at 130 pounds, okay? Interesting style matchups, right? So it's just interesting all the way around the board. But I truly believe that this is a test for both Gary Russell Jr. and for Chris Colbert. If Chris Colbert is able to beat, Gary Russell Jr., that would speak volumes for himself and his career in the direction that he wants to go in. Okay, so I think that this would be entertaining. But again, now we have to see. Now both are with the PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, and obviously Chris Colbert, he doesn't have a belt. And he's never officially been a world champion. He's held the interim belts, the silvers, and things of that nature. But he's never held the official title, WBA title, or anything of that nature. So Roger Gutierrez, he had to be pulled from the fight, and now Chris Colbert is looking for the biggest and best fights. Obviously, Chris Colbert versus, Shakur Stevenson in the unification bout would speak volumes, okay? But obviously, at that point, Shakur Stevenson beats. He was asked how he feels Shakur Stevenson, Oscar Valdez is going to go. And he stated that, he believes that it's going to be easy pickings for Shakur Stevenson, okay? So he stated that he believes Shakur Stevenson is going to be the unified champion, and he believes that, Shakur Stevenson, is one of the faces of the sport of boxing that he definitely has to go through. But again, you want it to be a unification bout at that point in time. So with that said, at super featherweight, you got the IBF champion is Kenichi Ogawa. Okay, you have Oscar Valdez, the WBC champion, WBO champion is Shakur Stevenson, and the WBA is Roger Gutierrez. That's who Chris Colbert is supposed to fight. He has 26 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw, 20 wins by way of knockout. So he was supposed to fight, against Christopher Colbert in this fight, but obviously he had to be pulled from the fight. So with that said, again, obviously the fight to be made is Shakur Stevenson is now he beats Oscar Valdez. He's most likely going to go the route of Kenichi Ogawa. Okay, so that looks like, a unification bout. So this gives, Christopher Colbert time, and this is a great opponent. This is a great opportunity for Gary Russell to get back on track. If Gary Russell wins this fight against Christopher Colbert, now you have Gary Russell versus Shakur Stevenson. You have Gary Russell versus, any one of these champions. Gary Russell's a huge name. Gary Russell gets overlooked because of his inactivity. Okay, Gary Russell has all the skills, all the boxing ability. Again, I thought he beat Mark Macedo with one arm. Okay, he injured his right shoulder in the 4th round of the fight. So I think that, and I thought that he clearly didn't use it. He didn't even throw a jab, and he's a natural right-hander. So he's fighting in a southpaw stance. So his dominant hand was rendered helpless, and he still was throwing combinations, still the more accurate puncher, still landing the cleaner, harder punches. And the referee and the fans, they wanted to give it to Mark Macedo just off of simply sheer aggression. Not effective aggression, but just aggression, okay? So Gary Russell versus any one of those guys is a massive fight. And it's a massive, if Christopher Colbert is to beat Gary Russell Jr., I believe Gary Russell Jr. is better than Oscar Valdez. I believe Gary Russell Jr. is better than Jamel Herring. Okay, I believe that Gary Russell is better than Miguel Berchelt. So if Christopher Colbert was to fight and beat Gary Russell Jr., he would have the best win on his resume in that crop of fighters in that group. Okay, so that would speak volumes. Okay, and if Gary Russell is able to beat Christopher Colbert and place himself in position to be able to garner a title for one of these guys and become a 2-division champion and has these big fights on the table, that would speak volumes for him and his career. and time is not on his side. Okay, Chris Colbert is 25, Gary Russell is 33, going on 34. So time is not on Gary Russell's side. So this would be a huge opportunity. And again, Shakur Stevenson, should he beat Oscar Valdez, or even if Oscar Valdez was to beat Shakur Stevenson, I'm sure they both are going to go after Kenichi Ogawa, who is the IBF super featherweight world champion. So that means, you know, they're fighting April 30th. Chris Colbert is fighting this Saturday. In 48 hours, he'll be fighting. So that means they're fighting in 2 months. What is it? Yeah, they're fighting in 2 months. So he could get another. They won't be ready to fight for at least 3 months, 4 months after that. So he could fight another fight by the time they fight, right? As long as he come through this fight unscathed. So, and if Roger Gutierrez is available, well, then he could fight Roger Gutierrez, and then the Gary Russell fight is going to essentially go by the wayside, because then he's going to look to unify these belts, okay? But he said that he's going to stick to his word and give Gary Russell the opportunity. But again, if Roger Gutierrez is available and ready to go by, let's say, June, then he's going to fight that fight, officially pick up that belt, and officially be the champion. And at that point in time, then the winner, Shakur Oscar Valdez, is going to look to fight Chris Colbert in the fall, okay? And then that's going to put Gary Russell on the sidelines. Or if Gary Russell could get an opportunity to fight against Kenichi Ogawa, which I highly doubt he will get the opportunity to do that. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.